Hey, what's good, fam? It's Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com. Today, we're going to talk about what I feel is the most dominating defense going into the college football season. So definitely hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. We appreciate you more than you know. Today, let's start with the defensive line, and let's talk about Phidarian Mathis. Alabama brought him to SEC Media Days, and usually when they do that, they're bringing players who are leaders, who are alphas, who are players who exemplify leadership, that grind, and Phil Mathis is that guy. You look at what he's done at Alabama the past couple years, he's a good example to follow for some of these younger guys who we're going to talk about in just a second. So label Phidarian Mathis as a problem going into 2021 on that defensive front. And you have Coach Freddie Roach, who has a ton of talent to work with. So let's get to the next player, which is Justin Ebogbe. I think Ebogbe is probably one of the most underrated players on this team, to be honest. I think you have a player who also has a lot of experience. You pair him up with Phidarian Mathis. I mean, that's a ton of experience. These guys can stop the run. They can get after the quarterback. I know Alabama has to replace Christian Barmore, but I think when you have Justin Ebogbe, Phidarian Mathis, we'll talk about LeBron Ray in just a second, but these guys have experience. And you look to the entire depth at this defensive line, I think this is the most defensive line in terms of quality depth that Alabama has had in several years. Another veteran returning, DJ Dell. Remember, when he was a freshman, he arrived at Alabama back in December before January. So, I mean, you talk about a player who's been with the Crimson Tide for many, many years. I think when you have DJ Dell, what he adds is a player who can stuff the run. He might not be the guy who's going to chase down quarterbacks, but on a third and short, on a goal line situation, DJ Dell is who you want inside the trenches. LeBron Ray, a player I'm certainly pulling for during the 2021 season, just in terms of a health standpoint. I want these players to certainly create value for themselves, just as Nick Saban talks about. And LeBron Ray, he's had the injury bug. LeBron Ray comes back. He's healthy. I think he'll create value for himself going forward, and I think he'll add a lot to this Alabama defense. Some of these younger guys, Tim Smith, I think it's going to be hard for Alabama to keep him off the field. We saw splashes of him last year, and as I mentioned, Alabama has to find a way to replace Christian Barmore. It's going to be tough to do, but I think Tim Smith has that in him. I think he has the ability to be a very physical, imposing defensive tackle who can get after the quarterback, who can create pressure, who can really be someone that offensive coordinators have a problem with all game long. Monkel Goodwine, very young player coming up in the pipes, hearing fantastic things about him. If you rewind to that spring game, Monkel Goodwine had a very good showing. So fans out there, if you're looking at Alabama's defensive line, they're only going to continue to cause havoc in the backfield. Let's start talking about these inside linebackers led by Christian Harris, another veteran, now a junior, started every game as a freshman, started every game as a sophomore, and now going into this junior season, I really feel that he's the alpha on this defense. I know I said the defensive line alpha is going to be Phidarian Mathis, but Christian Harris is a guy who you want to be your entire playmaker across that middle of the field on the defensive side of the ball. He has a lot of athleticism. Remember, back in high school, played wide receiver, returned kicks, comes back, and the one thing that I like about Christian Harris, you don't say much, right? He's not a flashy player, comes out, does his job. Henry TO'o coming from Tennessee to Alabama, already showing signs of leadership. And you look at the athleticism that he had. So you have Christian Harris, you have Henry TO'o. And again, like Coach Saban always says, it's not about just the starters. You have to, I mean, Alabama could go 15 deep, 17 deep on defense. That's the quality that you have at Alabama. Henry TO'o, I think, is going to add another gear to this inside linebacker unit. Rewind to a couple years ago when it was Shane Lee and Christian Harris as just freshmen. Now you look at the complete upgrade a couple years later with Henry and Christian Harris adding a lot of firepower to that interior linebacker play. You also have JAYLN Moody at the inside linebacker position. Talk about experience. Moody has 40 games played since his time at Alabama going into his senior season. You also have Shane Lee. Remember, Shane Lee during his freshman season a couple years ago started every single game and led the team in tackles. So Shane Lee coming back with a ton of experience going into his junior season. Great depth, as we mentioned, at that interior linebacker position for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Okay, so the outside linebacker position is really where I feel that Alabama is going to separate themselves from the rest of college football. William Anderson, we talked about the major problem that he's going to be for quarterbacks all season long. We saw him last year as a freshman. We saw how much he improved from game one to the last game of the season. You have him coming back as a sophomore. I honestly feel, deep down in my heart, that William Anderson is going to be the best player in college football on the defensive side of the ball. Continue to hear fantastic things about him, but you also look at his overall athleticism, how he works. You look at how well-spoken he is when we have opportunities to talk with him in the media. This is a player who I feel is going to leave Alabama as one of the best edge rushers. That's a lot of pressure to live up to. You're going to have media heads talking about, him and going into the season and the expectations, but I think he just has it. I honestly feel that William Anderson is going to be a major component of this defense. I think that goes without being said, but I think with the defense coming back, I think when you list dominating players, William Anderson is going to be that game-changing player who can change the momentum of the game any single time he steps on the field. Chris Allen coming back as a senior. Talk about that experience. I think when you look back to last season, you started to see that Chris Allen that we are looking for. I think he's maybe slimmed down a little bit. Maybe he's gotten more athleticism. I don't know, but Chris Allen looks ferocious coming back. And people keep asking, what type of season Chris Allen and William Anderson are going to have. I think those two are going to be one of the best tandems on the defensive side in college football. Again, those edge rushers going to be pivotal to Alabama this season. Now, also, at the outside linebacker position, you have Drew Sanders. Don't forget about him. We're not forgetting about him on our side because Drew Sanders has what it takes to add an incredible amount of quality depth at that outside linebacker position. He's made some very good progress this preseason training camp. He's going to get plenty of reps this season with William Anderson and Chris Allen needing blows, needing to come out. Drew Sanders steps in. You're not going to miss a beat. He's going to get on the field. I know people keep asking about Drew Sanders. When are we going to see him? You just have to be patient. You're going to see a lot of Drew Sanders this season. Young gun to the mix. Dallas Turner, a freshman coming in, highly rated player. Look, he weighs 250 pounds. Do you see 250 pounds on him? I don't. I mean, the kid wears it extremely well. So let's continue to track his progress as he continues his career at the University of Alabama. Can't wait to see the opportunities and what he does, whether it's on special teams or whatever, this season for the University of Alabama. King MWIKUTA is a player coming back also at that outside linebacker position, now a junior. Remember, he entered his name into the NCAA transfer portal early on, stuck it out still with Alabama, which I think is fantastic because I think King MWIKUTA, if he gets some opportunities, he can be somebody who really steps onto the field and can chase down that quarterback. I believe in King MWIKUTA. I think he has a lot of upside. You also got a newcomer by the name of KEANU coming back for his freshman season. Very talented outside linebacker. I think he probably needs a little bit more experience, probably a little bit more weight on him, but I think KEANU is someone to certainly know as we get going and move forward with this 2021, even going into the 2022 season. Now let's talk about that Alabama secondary. Tons of experience. You're going to hear that again and again at every single position on the defensive side of the ball. Jordan Battle, I can't believe he's already a junior, right? I mean, he spot played as a sophomore, had some impactful moments during his initial season with the Crimson Tide, saw him progress last season as a sophomore, now as a junior. He's one of those vets for Alabama in the secondary unit and somebody that secondary coach Charles Kelly is going to look to provide that on-the-field presence as a leader, a playmaker. Look for Jordan Battle to be one of the top safeties in the SEC, also in the entire country. Jordan Battle, a key component to this defensive secondary coming back to this season. You also got DEMARCCO HELLAMS. Now, DEMARCCO HELLAMS is a player that can lay the wood. Big hitter, probably one of the biggest hitters pound for pound on this team. From what we've heard, I think he's dealing with some sort of nagging ankle injury. We're not 100% certain on that. We'll catch up with Coach Saban this coming week to provide some more intel on his status for this game against Miami, but I don't think it's going to be anything that impacts his overall season. So DEMARCCO HELLAMS, big-time playmaker. Daniel Wright comes back for his senior season, a player who played a ton during the 2021 season. So HELLAMS, Daniel Wright, Jordan Battle, those are your safeties. Of course, we'll talk about Brian Branch in just a second. You got Josh Jobe leading that corner position. With the absence of Patrick Surtain going into this season, you're going to need someone to step up on that defensive secondary position at the corner position. I think that Josh Jobe can be that guy. I think he's very physical. I think he's athletic enough to match up with bigger corners on the outside. I have a lot of confidence in Josh Jobe, and you should too going into this season. So I think when you look to the vets at that corner position, and of course we'll talk about plenty of other guys in just a second, I have a lot of confidence in Josh Jobe going into this year. JAYLN ARMOUR-DAVIS, now a junior. And if we rewind to his freshman season, He dealt with an ACL injury, which was obviously unfortunate. And then last season, probably didn't get it on the field as much as he would like. But coming back to this season, he's been patient, working for those opportunities, going to get plenty of experience, probably noted as a starter at that corner position, along with Josh Jobe going into this first game against Miami. Very quality player. You got KOOL-AID, JaQuincy McKinstry as a true freshman. In my opinion, and it's talked about all the time when you talk about college football, corner is the toughest position to play in all the land, whether that's at high school, college, the pros. And with KOOL-AID, JaQuincy McKinstry coming in his very first season with the Crimson Tide, and to be able to have an opportunity to get on the field is really extraordinary. Let's talk about that star position. Malachi Moore last year played phenomenal as a true freshman. Coming into this 2021 season, you look to future guys who are going to be impactful for Alabama. Malachi Moore already impactful, but when guys like Jordan Battle, DeMarcco HELLAMS leave this defense, you're going to have Malachi Moore, Brian Branch step up, have all the confidence in the world in Malachi Moore. You also got Brian Branch back there. And in my opinion, I think Brian Branch, Malachi Moore, similar type players. Very versatile type players that can play corner, star, safety, whatever you need them to do on the defensive side of the ball. So going into their sophomore season, they're going to certainly add a lot of value during the 2021 season on the defensive side. You got the young gun by the name of TERRION Arnold. I think he's kind of like KOOL-AID, right? It's amazing when you look at Alabama's overall roster, how many similar type players that they have. And that's quality depth. TERRION Arnold, another player coming in, trying to make waves during his first year. Coach Saban said if it's going to be TERRION Arnold might see some time on special teams, on the defensive side, at the corner position, but TERRION Arnold, a huge pickup for the Crimson Tide out of the class of 2021. Hey, fam, well, that's a preseason preview of the Alabama defense. Definitely hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe, leave a comment inside. We appreciate you more than you know. Check out our other videos, the related content right here on BamaInsider.com. We'll catch you soon this week for Alabama versus Miami.